What's up, family? Welcome to the second episode of Stack Sats or Die Trying. This is the Bitcoin show brought to you by the Hood. Listen, I want to start off by saying thank you to everyone who gave me feedback on that first episode. You know, there's something new that we were trying. Break out a lot of our Bitcoin discussion onto its own show. Have great conversations. Hopefully, I can share some of the knowledge that I've acquired over the last 8 years in Bitcoin. And as I acquire new information, because I'm studying daily, I'll be able to share that as well, have great conversations, and, just build with the community, man. So with that being said, this is episode 2. The first episode, I talked about what the show was going to be, a little bit about my background, how I got into Bitcoin. Today's show, I specifically want to talk about everything being repriced in Bitcoin, right? So in the first episode, I talked about what a Satoshi is, and how I'm all about stacking sats, the various ways that I stack sats. But I'm currently reading a book. As a matter of fact, let me share the book with you guys. For those watching the video, you'll be able to see the book. If you're listening to this on audio, I'll read the name of the book and also put the link in the description so you can go get a copy if you want. But here we go. The book that I'm currently reading is called The Price of Tomorrow. It's by a gentleman named Jeff Booth, and I've been following his work for a couple years now. And it's a very, interesting book. But it made me think, and I went and did some research about how everything is being repriced in Bitcoin and how things are becoming cheaper as time goes on. So I talked last episode about, my professional work that I've been doing as an adult, which is in the valuation space, specifically as it pertains to real estate. Now, with that being said, and I always want to use that to give context as to why I feel the way I feel about Bitcoin. Because I've studied value literally my entire adult life, in all of the variables that go into giving value to land and real estate also work, if I use that to apply it to Bitcoin, if that's the framework that I'm using, it makes me see Bitcoin in a different way. And I see the value of Bitcoin. So one of the things I used to do is I would try to kind of like create this mental model of land and real estate and how things would be repriced in terms of land and real estate. If your money was put in a store of value such as land, what is it going to be worth in 10, 20 years versus leaving it in the dollar and looking at how inflation is affecting our economy? What can I buy if I can just pull the money from the land? Think about money being tied to land, although land tends to appreciate. It's a liquid, which is problematic in itself. But the thing about this book is I'm listening to the book and I'm listening to his thoughts and his processes, and as he works through why deflation is the key to an abundant future. I started looking up, what if I applied that same model, but I'm looking at real estate as opposed to just the dollar, and how real estate is being affected in terms of the price of what it costs to own real estate versus buying Bitcoin. Because I've gotten to a lot of crazy debates with my colleagues in the real estate space, because I told them I'm not even buying property no more. The money that I was using to acquire doors in real estate, I'm not buying Bitcoin. And to me, it makes more sense to buy Bitcoin as opposed to buying more property. And I know it's going to sound blasphemous for not only people watching this, but, a lot of my colleagues, because again, I'm in the real estate space. So most of the people I talk to are lenders, other investors, agents, appraisers, so on and so forth. But here's why. Let me give you a little bit of analysis and how I came to that conclusion. And by the way, again, let me share another thought. Here's a tweet from the same guy, Jeff Booth, and I'm, share the tweet on the screen. For those that, are listening, I'll read it out loud. So that's his Twitter. You can go follow him and look up his, his work if you want. He says, in my opinion, you can choose to buy Bitcoin as it reprices everything in the existing system, or accumulate it by delivering value to others after it does, right? So you can either, you can stack sats or die trying. That's a different way of saying that. But here's why this tends to make sense, right? So I came across another tweet from a gentleman, I Capital. That's his Twitter handle, but I'm sharing it on the screen. I'll read the analysis that he did, which says the median new U.S. home price in Bitcoin. So what he's doing is he's looking at how many Bitcoin it takes to buy the median home in our country. And he's going all the way back to 2012, all the way up to 2024. So the median home price right now is somewhere in the 400s. And again, understanding what median is. Median is not the average. Median is a better indication of what things cost. It's the middle number, right? So the thing about using an average, which is called a mean versus, a median or a mode is the number that you see most frequently in a distribution of numbers. The average, which is the mean, which is what a lot of people use when they give statistics. They say the average this or the average that. The median is better. It's the middle number because the median gets rid of huge outliers, right? So the gazillion-dollar homes at the top end or the $1 homes at the bottom, like they're removed. So you see what the middle number is. And right now across our country is somewhere in the $400,000 range. Now, with that being said, in 2012, and for those watching the video, make sure you comment, subscribe, like, do all that good stuff too. But if you're listening to this on the audio, I'm going to read out loud every year from 2012 up to 2024. Then I'll bring this home in terms of what I'm trying to say with all this information, right? In 2012, it took 50,616 Bitcoin to buy the median home. 2013, that number went from 50,616 all the way down to it took 19,127 Bitcoin to buy the median home. In 2014, 351 Bitcoin to buy the median home. 2015, it jumped up a little bit, 901 Bitcoin to buy the median home. 2016, it drops down. Now it takes 697 Bitcoin to buy the median home, right? 2017, 323 Bitcoin. 2018, it took 24 Bitcoin. 2019, 84 Bitcoin. 2020, 46 Bitcoin. 2021, 10 Bitcoin. 2022, 20 Bitcoin. 2023, 14 Bitcoin. And as of right now, where we stand today in 2024, it takes only 8 Bitcoin to buy the median price home. Now, from 2012 to 2024, it went from taking 50,616 Bitcoin to buy the median price home here in our country to now in 2024, only taking 8 Bitcoin. So looking at it year over year, it's kind of crazy. And sometimes it does fluctuate because we know that the market tends to fluctuate. But when you look at things and you kind of zoom out, if you start looking at things in 5 and 10-year increments, you say, man, so if I'd have been saving money, let's just say saving cash, not allocating it anywhere else into any sort of stock or real estate, it means that what I'm saving, and this is the thing about Bitcoin being a savings technology, which a lot of people miss, is it's operating different. It's deflation. It's not inflation. So just by me having my money here, it allows it to, kind of gain value against everything else. And if I'm measuring this against real estate, I can actually buy more real estate just by having Bitcoin. So this is why when I look at this model and these numbers, and again, I'm using math. I don't care about your emotional feelings. See, here's the thing, right? And here's the thing that a lot of people have to get over when it comes to understanding Bitcoin and what it means. We have biases and we have paradigms that we have to just remove, right? We've been thinking about this one way. So when I tell someone that, I would rather buy a digital currency versus a piece of physical, tangible land, that doesn't make sense to a lot of people because they have this paradigm they have to get. And I totally understand it because, again, I told a story when I first heard about this. I didn't, but again, everybody gets Bitcoin at the price they deserve. If I would have acted as soon as I heard about this, I would have a lot more than I have today. But now I would rather have a full Bitcoin than a property, right? Assuming that we're talking about the same thing, right? I'm not going to take a 1 Bitcoin right now as I'm recording this is about 50, little over 50,000. I'm not going to take that in place of a $500,000 house, but I'm saying all things being equal right now, you offer me, you offer me 2 Bitcoin or $100,000 property. Give me the 2 Bitcoin. Here's how I got to that conclusion. I'm giving you the math that I'm using. But also I'm thinking 5, 10 years out. I don't even care what the price is day in and day out, right? Because I'm not trading. When it comes to this, I'm not trading. But not to say I don't trade in general, because everyone knows that I'm in the market every day, looking at the ebbs and flows of the market. I am a mean reversion trader as it pertains to the options game, but not when it comes to just my savings. My Bitcoin is my savings. And that's another piece that people don't understand. They said, do you invest in Bitcoin? I don't invest in Bitcoin. I save in Bitcoin, right? It's a store of value for me. So let me add a little bit more context to this. So after I read this tweet, and this tweet, I saw on my timeline, someone retweeted it. It was February 16th. And it came across my timeline at the same time that I'm reading this book, which is why I said this would be an interesting topic about how, Bitcoin reprices everything. So as I came across this tweet, right, I found a site, and the site is called Priced in Bitcoin, right? And here's what that does. The site gives you, well, first and foremost, let me share this with you first and foremost, because the site actually goes over exactly what the gentleman said about real estate. So I definitely want to share that. And here is the site for those watching the video. For those listening, I will read exactly what it says. As a matter of fact, let me share the real estate one first, because he talks specifically about real estate on this site, right? So it says the United States median new house, and this website is pricedinbitcoin21.com. I'm gonna repeat that, and I will put a link into the show notes and description for this website, because it's an interesting site for you to go do some analysis and to get data. Again, everything that I talk about, for the most part, on all of our shows, I'm using data and facts, not just my opinion. So Priced in Bitcoin 21 tells you the value of everything in comparison to Satoshis. So, I just gave you the information about how many Bitcoin it takes, but this breaks it down into Satoshis, right? It takes 840,082,791 Satoshis to buy the median house price. And as you can see the chart on the screen, how it's coming down over time. It's literally coming down. So because I'm saving in Satoshis, housing prices aren't going up to me. We hear about how everything costs too much. Costs too much to buy a house. No one will ever be able to buy a house. Millennials can't do that. For those of us who save in Bitcoin, everything is becoming cheaper because we're using Satoshis as our standard of measurement. That's the paradigm you have to understand when you really dig deep into, the Bitcoin rabbit hole. For me, I am trading my fiat dollars because of the strategies I use for Satoshis as my savings vehicle. Now, when I'm ready to spend, I do that transition and I can buy more. You know what I mean? The crazy part about it is, there are folks in the community that understand that. So we have tools now that allow us to do that easy. The Fold card I was telling you about is a debit card. Fold is probably my favorite Bitcoin company. But what they allow me to do now is one of the most powerful things that I've seen. I can buy my Bitcoin, trade my fiat for Bitcoin right inside the Fold app, save it in Bitcoin. When I'm ready to spend, press of a button, it goes into my cash account, and now I have my actual physical card or my digital card with Fold. So think about this. I could be saving everything in Satoshis, right? Over time, when I'm ready to spend, boom. But now my money is getting more value while, your dollar is a melting ice cube. My Satoshis are becoming more valuable. And now things are becoming cheaper. Not to mention, every time I spend on my card, I get a percentage back in Bitcoin, which is more savings for me. So a lot of folks are in an economy operating out of fear, when to me, I'm operating out of abundance because everything is becoming cheaper for me. I'm stacking sats and I'm living a completely different life than my neighbors and my family. And, and the funny thing is, they like to tell me, someone told me earlier, you still into that Bitcoin? I said, of course. Man, you're lucky you got in early. I said, lucky? I've been telling you since 2017, I've been telling you. A year after I got in, I told everybody, I was in 2016 was my year of getting indoctrinated into understanding what this technology is. But ever since then, I've been go to every social media post I got, look at my hashtag. It's literally stack sat to die trying. That's been my cry literally since I started to have an understanding. I said, so you can't call me lucky, because how am I lucky when I'm able to sit there and withstand watching, my capital deplete that way, understanding that I'm playing the long game, right? I got gigantic gonads. That's what allows me now to sit back as we're going the other way and say, okay, things are cheaper now. So this is just median home prices. Let me share something else with you. And for those listening, I appreciate you listening. Leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, whatever it may be. But I repeat what the screen says now. It's the website, pricedinbitcoin21.com. And this is a great website, by the way. It's showing the United States median new house takes 840,082,791 Satoshis to buy that house. Right? Now, let me show you some other things, because here's what's powerful about this website too. They price everything. It's not just homes. And let me show you what I mean by that. Here we go. Also, this is the another page on that same site, priced in Bitcoin 21. But let me share it with you guys so I can show you exactly what I mean by that. Hold on 1 second. Because what they do is, and here it is. So for those listening, I'll read this out loud as well. And for those watching, as you can see the screen, pricedinbitcoin21.com. What they do is this. They will tell you the price of Satoshis versus everything, right? And I could change this, by the way, on the site. I could switch it, from sats to actual Bitcoin, but sats are easier to understand. Because if I say, for instance, the United States dollar is the first thing up here. Right now, $1 US is 1,931 Satoshis. If I flip it to Bitcoin, it's 0.0000193. So Satoshis is easier. But the point is the same thing. That's just converting it from Satoshi to Bitcoin. But let's leave it at Satoshis, because again, this show is stack sats or die trying. So these are sats. It takes 1,931 sats to equal $1, right? We're looking at a barrel of crude oil, 148,697 sats for 1 barrel of crude oil. And if you want to break this down and do the math, right? Shout out to my brother Akil Parker from All This Math. I gotta share this video with him because I want him to do something about Bitcoin math, because Bitcoin has its own math, right? But here's a quick breakdown. If $1 US is 1,931 Satoshis and 1 barrel of crude oil is 148,697 Satoshis, do some quick division, right? And that'll tell you what the crude oil will be. As a matter of fact, I'll do it while I'm on here. Let me pull my little trusty calculator out. I don't have to do anything right now by my head. So we talk about 148,697 sats for the crude oil. Let's see, divided by 1,931. That means each barrel is $77 if we're using USD as our measurement. Hope that makes sense, especially for those listening. All I'm doing is showing you how to convert, dollars into Satoshis. And this is fluctuating, right? Because Bitcoin's price goes up and down. But right now, as I'm recording this, 1,931 Satoshis for one single dollar. But this price is everything. So it has crude oil, an ounce of gold, 3,898,491 Satoshis. A share of the S&P 500, 9,712,675 Satoshis, which is, you do the math there, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 5,000. There's the home price again. But here's what's beautiful about this site. You can go through every currency, the euro, Singapore dollar, Australian dollar. And I'm not going to go through each one. I will leave the link if anybody wants to play around with this site. But, if you're listening in, I'm going to get to the point in a second. Precious metals, gold, commodities, right? Crude oil, natural gas, gasoline, propane. If you look at agriculture, here's what beef costs versus Satoshis: eggs, cheese, soybeans, wheat, lumber, milk. Go to livestock, live cattle, feeder cattle, hogs, right? Copper, coal, right? Complete indexes, the Dow Jones index, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ 100, the Russell 2000. Sectors for all my traders out there, right? especially those in the MDC, we tell you to have a watch list of the specific sectors. Here's real estate, financials, technology, healthcare, energy, the equivalent index funds that, ETFs that correspond with that. So an ETF for real estate will be XLRE, for the finance sector, XLF, for technology, XLK, so on and so forth. And it compares how many Satoshis it takes to buy one share of each. For the real estate, right? And I follow this religiously, XLRE, it takes 74,826 Satoshis to buy one share, which is a little less than $40. It's about $38 a share. So every share of XLRE, which is about $38, somewhere around there, is like 74,826 Satoshis. Now, if we're just looking at some of the, more volatile and explosive stocks that folks love, right? Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Alphabet. Here's how it's priced in Satoshis for one share of each of those companies. And it goes on for days and days. I can value Berkshire to Satoshis. I can value other actual crypto projects, all kinds of things. Automakers, airlines. I'm not going to go down the list, but this website is powerful, right? The website again, pricedinbitcoin21.com. Here's the point of all this. Here's what I want you to notice. It breaks down the price of all of these various assets, holdings, property, whatever you want to call it, by day, by week, by month, year to date, 1 year, 3 year, and 5 years. What you'll notice on the screen is you'll see a little bit of green because things fluctuate over time. But look at it over the 5-year period and just look at how much red you see in comparison to green. What this means is everything is going down when you price it in Satoshis. Almost all assets across the world, just look at the screen. And if you are listening to this, you can pull this up. And I'm going to give you an example. Over the last 5 years, the US dollar has lost 93% of its value to Satoshis. It's down 93%, right? Let me pick something else random on this screen. Let's go to my favorite index to follow, XLRE. It's down 92.38%. XLF, the financial sector, right? 89.64%. Everybody says technology is booming. The technology sector is down 79.78% in comparison. If we're measuring it again, it's being repriced. It's becoming cheaper. Everything is becoming cheaper in comparison to sats. Everything. Let's just take, everybody loves Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, right? It's down 86.41% if we're measuring it against Satoshis, right? So it's becoming cheaper for me. You name it. Not trying to sound like the meme or nothing, but you name it. Live cattle, right? Live cattle is down 89.9%. Coffee is down 86.35%. Cotton is down 91.14%, right? So I don't have to just read off everything on this list. That's the point that I'm driving home here. When you start to understand Bitcoin, understand the value proposition, understand how constantly printing money makes something that's not, correlated to the dollar become more valuable and how everything is becoming cheaper, it changes that paradigm, but it's going to take a lot to change that paradigm. And I know that, right? Which is why I don't spend my time anymore trying to what we call orange pill everybody and tell everybody, yo, you got to come over and buy Bitcoin. I don't care no more. I share my story. I share the knowledge I have. If you want to understand and start to buy and save, that's on you. Because anything said in this show, in any show, on our entire channel, network, whatever you want to call it, our Facebook page, our podcast feed, is not investment advice. It's for educational and informational purposes only. Buy the Hood is a community organization at the end of the day. We spend our time, resources, and energy on trying to educate folks in our community. Bitcoin is I don't even want to call it a hobby. It's a lifestyle I live. So I figured that having this show separate from everything else we do will be powerful because, I can go on tangents about Bitcoin and I don't want to dominate our show because we talk about politics and everything of that nature. So this is my chance to just talk about Bitcoin, right? And I have plenty of tools like this, and I'm not going to take up too much more time in this specific episode because I could ramble on for months about Bitcoin. It's interesting. It's a TV show on that my wife watches where it's like these people and they're in this little space and they have like something that they're passionate about or they know about, and they get quizzed on it and go against each other. Something on Fox, whatever. I don't know what it's called. Forgive me. But as I'm watching her watch it one day, I'm like, what would be the one thing that I could talk about versus everybody else? And it would be Bitcoin, which is why this show exists, right? Some people on there, their thing is like, hip hop or TV shows or cartoons. And sometimes it gets mad specific. Some people it's geography. For some people it's history. Mine would be Bitcoin. It's what I like talking about the most. And the reason I like talk about it the most is because it's a very nuanced conversation. And it's not just about things being repriced. It's not just about number go up. It's not just an investment. Again, that's why I said it's a lifestyle, because it kind of makes you look at everything and give everything the side eye. You question certain things politically. Bitcoin has made me question even the foods that I eat, believe it or not. And we're going to get into that in a different show, but it's got me looking at everything, right? I was reading a book about economics the other day, and the guy was talking about how economics has affected our food science. And I went down a rabbit hole, but all this is because I'm studying economics because I want to further understand Bitcoin. So what I'm saying is it affects every part of your life, which is why I love to talk about it, because it's not just as simple as here's the Bitcoin, here's what it's worth, I want my money to go up. For some people, that's what it is. All they're chasing are fiat gains. They want Bitcoin to go to $1 million so they can become wealthy, which is why you have people that end up buying shit coins, because they're saying, I might get a better ROI if I buy this versus Bitcoin, not understanding the true value of Bitcoin. When you have a decentralized, censorship-resistant money, it doesn't even matter what the price is. And I know that sounds crazy, right? Quick story before I get out of here. And you may have heard this if you listen to other shows that I've said this several times. But one time I had my bank account frozen. I had no idea why. I was banking at, I don't want to say the bank's name. I was banking at Wells Fargo. Let's say that, right? So my bank account was frozen one day. I didn't know what to do. So I went to the bank and they told me, you have a judgment against you. I said, I have no judgment against me. Like, what are you talking about? Come to find out, I had to, hire an attorney, figure out what's going on. They froze my account for a judgment against me that was placed against me when it shouldn't have been. I have a common name, right? Everybody, they call me Jimmy. My name is James Williams, very common. And they had a judgment against me for child support, right? And for by the way, I have no kids, by the way. They have a judgment against me for child support for someone that's older than me. I'm going to repeat that. They had a judgment against me for someone that's older than me. Made no sense at all. So, make a long story short, I just happened to be lucky enough to, have, friends and family that helped me out. Got an attorney, got it taken care of. But during that investigation, everything was cleared up within a day or so. It wouldn't even take that long. But what I found was, an attorney found this out, that in, certain instances, they'll find a common name and just place a judgment against everybody. And they figure out, like, they'll kind of like get the person that really owes to pop up. And I'm like, well, what if I didn't have the connections or resources to get anything done about that? This leads to a whole other conversation about this world is just not made for poor people, because like that is kind of like, that's nasty work right there. How you going to do that? But at the time, right? And this is another one of those things that lives in the back of my brain. So when I start to study gold, I was thinking like, man, if I just had gold bars, you could do whatever you want to do with my bank account, right? They can't control what I physically have, which leads to then Bitcoin coming years later. And now I'm thinking like, oh, it doesn't even have to take up space and they still can't touch it? Okay. I need to have a certain allocation of my resources in this asset, which they can't touch, which they can't freeze or ban just because they want to, right? I didn't do anything wrong in that instance. They like, were kind of being, fraudulent in their approach. Like, yo, I'm gonna throw it on every James Williams. Even this guy who is younger than the person this whole judgment is supposed to be, it made no sense. But got it cleared up. But that has always lived in the back of my mind. And because of that specific situation in my life, I'm very passionate about having something that's censorship resistant. It's not that I'm no sort of criminal and I'm trying to hide money. I'm not doing anything crazy, right? I'm a normal guy living a normal life, right? I'm not a greedy guy trying to do all kinds of craziness. I just, but I want to make sure that, in a situation where you got powerful people coming after you, I could have some resources, a way to defend myself, right? This is what Bitcoin is. So then I think about people in, locations who have governments who just do all kinds of craziness. Not to say that ours doesn't, or it does, because I don't want no issues. This is something they have to deal with every day, day in and day out. So just keep that in mind as you talk about what Bitcoin actually is, and we can go deeper into that in a further episode. But the point of this episode is everything gets repriced when you put it against Bitcoin. And for the most part, and damn near everything is down over a long period of time. From day in and day out, you'll see fluctuations, but over time, things become cheaper when you save with Satoshis. And now you have things like the Fold card. By the way, it's a link for the Fold information in the description and show notes as well. That's a no-brainer. I put money in there every week. Like just, gas money, go put it over here in sats, right? So I put my gas money in sats, right? Let's just say I take $100 for gas, right? And I put it in sats a couple weeks ago when Bitcoin is 40,000. Now we over here at 50,000. My gas is cheaper. So what happens when Bitcoin gets 100,000? I got all these sats I bought over here when I was buying it at 15, 20,000. And now Bitcoin is 100,000. Everything that I save for is cheaper. That's a way to simplify it. And people will say, I know what the feedback is. Well, what about when it takes a fall? Excuse me. Here's the first thing. Even if it does fall, I started buying it less than 1,000. Excuse me again. I started buying it less than $1,000. So even if it does fall, I don't care first of all, if it does fall that far, I'm buying much more. I'm dumping it. I'm dropping everything else and buying that, right? That's the one thing. The second thing is I'm looking at everything long-term, and it's always going to take much more because you get it at the price you deserve. So if we go up to 100,000, 200,000, and it drops down to 50,000, am I going to be upset when I bought it at 1,000, right? No. But if you're just starting to buy now at 50,000, right? There's still an upside there. There's still an upside. And maybe next episode, I'll talk about what's getting ready to happen with the halvening, as well as the ETFs buying up so much of the actual supply. Because if you understand supply and demand, you know that it's getting ready to be a shock in the system because, it's not going to be enough supply for the demand that's out there. And what does that do to price? Anyway, this is episode 2 of Stack Sats or Die Trying. I hope you love my little tangent today about everything being priced in Satoshis. If you have any comments, questions, please leave them. If you tell me that I'm ridiculous in my thought process, that's fine as well. Won't bother me one bit, but understand that you're going to get it at the price you deserve, right? With that being said, though, I do want some feedback, though. Have you ever heard of that website? And if not, make sure you go check it out, man. Pricedinbitcoin21.com. Also, check a look at that book, too. If nothing else, when you come to our channel, you're going to get some book recommendations, right? Because we're big on reading and sharing what we're reading, sharing our studies. And I'm reading like 5 books right now, but not all of them are related to Bitcoin. Some related to economics, some related to history. Some are just like bios. Like I'm reading Fat Joe's bio right now. I'm just about done that one. So everything's not all serious all the time, but a lot of history, a lot of economics, a lot of Bitcoin. So anyway, man, appreciate all the support. Regular pod be out Wednesday. Friday, we're live, and we give away Bitcoin every Friday. So tune into that. It's a live show. Wednesday is our pre-recorded pod, so check that out as well. Appreciate all the support. Love you guys. But remember, man, stack sats or die trying. Peace.